Today is February 5th. It is 3 p.m. My infant's in the background there. Excuse us. All right. You're listening to the Splinterlands AMA. Both Matt and I are here today. We're here to go answer some questions. Maybe give a little bit of an update on things that we're doing. And I don't know, just it's been a good month. I don't know any other way to state that. We put out a report today, so hopefully that timing is pretty good. We put out a report today sharing, just some numbers from the past month, and we saw like a 10% increase in signups for just in terms of registered users. I think it was a 4 or 6% increase in terms of like Summoner Spellbook purchases. So lots of things are going well. The game continues to expand. At this pace, we will double the number of active users. We'll double the registered users, by the end of the year. And there's still plenty of year left to go. So feeling pretty good. Liking Bitcoin and where it is currently. That's a nice wind in our sails. And that's a good backdrop just in terms of moving right along. Matt, anything you want to add to sort of just kick us off and get us started here?
I agree with everything you said, and we've just been working on so much stuff from a development standpoint. So there's just like tons of stuff happening, over the next year, but also over the next few months, from Guild Wars, which have started to go into testing, very early stage testing, additional blockchain integrations, rental systems, and all sorts of other stuff, scaling optimizations, that type of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot to try to juggle. I don't know. Yeah, it's been a good month. There's lots of projects that are ongoing, and these are exciting times. So there's not too many questions. So I guess you guys can help us by putting in some questions here. But so I think the first one is actually Neil's here. So the PAL crew, or the Peace, Abundance, and Liberty crew, put together a new prediction market, and there's a Splinterlands prediction about the market cap. So he's asking, have you placed your PAL on the Splinterlands market? So that's kind of a subtle shout out to that, but there's a prediction market and there's a question about Splinterlands. So that's a new application built on top of Hive, and maybe that's something you guys want to check out. Simply Mike is asking, any idea on when and how SPT will be integrated into the game? Hasn't there been talk about being able to buy things like skins and stuff with SPT? I don't know Matt's particular timing. I was thinking that sort of after guild tournaments are released and before land, that's when we get some limited time to work on like not the major development projects. So that's sort of when I was thinking stuff like that might be appearing, but I don't know what Matt's timeline is.
Yeah, I don't have a specific timeline for it. That's one of those things that's like cool, nice to haves, but it's not like top priority development project for like growing and improving the game.
So it's on the radar. It's just hard to put in, like, SPT versus guild tournaments. There's no comparing, and we just strongly believe that guild tournaments needs to be next.
Generally speaking, we have lots of cool ideas for, the Splinterlands or just generic gaming communities, tokenize and how that could be integrated with the game and like various things. So there's all sorts of cool ideas and stuff we can do there, and it's something we think about. But really, it's extremely important that we focus and get the things done that are really going to move the needle. So we have to look at everything that we have to potentially do, and look at how do we expect that will affect the business if we spend time on it and release this feature. And then we pick what we will work on. Are the things that we think will have the biggest impact.
All right. So, question. This is from Dave. Would you mind reiterating your Mav response regarding adding another? He says flight for rank when the new card set is released, and clarify that the older versions will still be playable in ranked play.
Yeah, I guess it seems like there was some confusion potentially in the last AMA. And I think in the last AMA, the discussion really started and was focused around the items and spell cards. And I think the question that kicked it off had to do with, would there be the ability, after items and spells are released, would there be an option to still play without those, like the classic version of Splinterlands? And that's the type of thing where, we were just talking about it. We don't know at this point, if there will or will not be. It will probably come down to whether there's enough demand for it, right? If enough people want it, then probably we would do it. Otherwise, probably not. But I think that got a little mixed up into what will happen with formats and alpha and beta cards when the new set is released after Untamed sells out. So, our plan has been the same, and we've talked about this for a while. Potentially subject to change, but as far as we plan right now is that when Untamed sells out and the next set is released, which we're planning to call Chaos Legion, we're going to introduce a modern format ranked ladder. So if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone or pretty much any game of this type, at some point when there's enough sets out, they only allow you to play in the majority of cases with the newer sets of cards. Our plan is to, as Dave McCoy added in bold, we plan to add a second ranked ladder. So sort of now how you can flip between like practice and challenge and ranked, it might be switching between practice, challenged, ranked modern, and ranked wild, we can call it. So you'll have the option to play just with the newer sets of cards, or you could play with all the cards being available. And then, there would be separate reward pools for each of those ranked ladders. So if you have the older cards and the newer cards, you could play in both, and get to, maybe champion in both and get double the rewards there. So, so the idea is not to remove or reduce in any way the rewards that are attainable for having older cards, but at the same time, it's just there's no way we'll get any new players in that can compete at all if there's just that many sets of cards that they would have to get to be competitive. So we have to. There's really no way around creating a modern format ladder. And then aside from that, as far as tournaments are concerned, we plan to always have tournaments that will be exclusive or allow alpha and also beta cards, as well as tournaments that will only allow the newer cards, just like we do now. So again, there shouldn't, we don't anticipate any reduction in there. And just overall, like from a, anecdotal standpoint, or just to understand where at least I'm coming from. So I have an almost complete collection, beta edition collection of Magic the Gathering cards, and I sort of use that as a guideline for what we're doing, in the sense that I want alpha and beta Splinterlands cards to be like alpha and beta Magic the Gathering cards. But in a lot of ways, I want them to be better, because the alpha and beta Magic the Gathering cards, they have a lot of value, even though you pretty much cannot ever use them. Right? No one ever uses them to play, not only because there's not a lot of actual tournaments or opportunities to use them, but also because they're valuable and you don't want to actually be playing with them and have them get dinged up. You need to keep them in good condition and all that stuff. So we don't, with digital cards, we don't have that problem. So the older cards will always be able to be played, just not in every format. And then on top of that, we can also make lots of other ways that those cards can be used and provide value. So land is probably the main one for right now, but it doesn't, not necessarily the only one that there will be. Just like different things that you can do with the cards, where the older cards provide significantly more value than the newer cards. So that's just like, if people are thinking, like, they hear something that we're saying and they're thinking that it's going to destroy the value of older cards, I would say it's most likely a misunderstanding, because that's in my mind pretty much all the time, and I think aggroed too, when we're thinking about all these things, is like, we want the alpha and beta, and at some point Untamed is going to be an old edition, right? We want those cards to be like the old edition Magic cards, and to be really scarce and valuable collector's items that people are going to want. So hopefully that clears up things. I haven't seen what everyone's typing in the questions here, but we'll get to that, I guess, as we get down there.
Yeah, my main point for this would be it's additive.
Does that cover everything well, aggroed?
Yeah, my main point would be that this is additive. It's not meant to take away from anything. It's just meant to, like, we get inundated with concerns about new players. And it's like, okay, well, how do we help new players? We have to make sure that whatever is current is the thing that they can use to be competitive. And so I think of this as like a really good way to allow brand new players to come in, participate, not have to spend $1 billion, but get their feet wet with, just the current edition, and keep everything else out of that. And that's a way to go make it so that new players can come in and not have to make a $1,000 decision on day one. But by doing that in addition to what's already here for the older stuff, it's not like we're taking away value from the older cards. You will still get the same value, but if you own that current edition, then there's, some separate pool that's available for that. And by making it additive, I just don't see it taking away. Byzantinus is asking a little bit here about the market cap and the double up thing. And Neil is responding. So that's sort of like an aside question. The double up thing is fun in a separate application. So I'll keep that separate for now.
Well, in general, market cap is not really the best way to evaluate not only Splinterlands, but every project. Every crypto project, they're all evaluated by market cap and listed by market cap, and for one, it's kind of different for every project, and it's just not the best metric for a number of reasons. So it should just be one of many metrics that you look at. If this is just about the double up thing, well, that's just, that is what it is. But as far as people like evaluating Splinterlands, that's one metric to look at. It's possible that it can be manipulated to some degree, or may not represent certain things accurately to some degree. But just look at that as one among many different factors to kind of get a gauge of how the game is doing.
Too Curious is asking how many people are working full time on Splinterlands, and will more people be added?
How many people? I think there's 7 full-time right now. I
think there's 7.
And I'm in the process of potentially bringing another developer on in the near future, which will really help things, I think. And then it depends a little, a lot depends on what happens over the year. We're still looking into various potential fundraising options, and if one of those comes through, then part of that will be probably a pretty significant increase in the team size, but that's still TBD.
About the Wild and Classic version, this is still Too Curious. Would you be able to enter both of the ranked competitions with the same deck, or do you need 2 different accounts?
Say you'd be able to enter both. I would just look at it like, there's 2 different tournaments taking place, one that is like alpha only, or one that allows all the cards, and one that's untamed only. You can enter both with your same cards, just as long as you're using the alpha cards only in the one that allows all cards. So the idea is you would be able to play in both versions, and potentially earn double the rewards, which is also incentive for existing players to still get the newer cards, which is what we want. You don't have to, but if you want to also take advantage of the additional rewards in the modern format, then you'll need to get the newer cards to do that.
Dave McCoy is asking, in the sports card market, a popular concept is fan art cards that are made by the community, put into, say, the promo code category, or the promo category. Would you guys be open to the idea of creation of cards, characters, and art by the community? Of course, with it all running through the Splinterlands team for final approval. I'm asking so that we might put together as a community if you were open to the idea.
I would be open to potentially getting community-made art for new cards. As we add new cards to the game. I mean, we do have artists that are really good. One thing is, there's a couple things to keep in mind there. I mean, one is we do try to keep the art consistently styled. I mean, there's a couple different styles as we've changed artists, but in general, like we don't want to be all over the place with the art. Doesn't mean we can't do it, but it's just something to consider. I think one thing we've been thinking about is doing that more for skins, potentially than for new cards. But which, there's always pros and cons. So some people have expressed concerns that if there's too many skins available for cards, it's hard to know what cards you're looking at when you're looking at a battle. If there's a whole bunch of different pictures for them, things like that. So I think I'm always at least open to having the community contribute as much as possible, but we don't just want to say just open the floodgates without kind of thinking through all these things first. Did you have any thoughts on that, Aggro? Because you're more involved in the art side of things.
Yeah, I like the idea. I mean, that's part of what the Splinterlands piece is. I mean, it sounds like he's talking about creation of cards, characters, and art. I'm not sure if he's just talking lore or the actual cards themselves. I mean,
he said put into the promo category, so it sounds like for new actual cards in the game. But it's possible we could do like we have Asmare dice and the essence orbs. Maybe we could do a mini fan art set or edition of cards at some point. That's specifically about that.
Yeah, I like ideas like that where we take it. Who knows how it works? Who knows how it goes? So rather than do a big giant yes or a big giant no, it's like, well, let's run an experiment, and doing something small makes sense. But then that question becomes like, all right, well, where do we prioritize that? How do we put that in? Even if it's all player art and whatever, that still takes time. You got to develop it. You got to put it in. Somebody tends to have to manage that. So, and when we have other things that are going on, it's tricky to add. So
yeah.
If there's a strong appetite for it, then maybe that's a thing that we do, and we start building that into the roadmap. But we do have a bunch of promises that we're working on delivering, and so it would be, my guess is that it would end up sometime after those. So, anyways, Bandoggy, he was saying, I was brainstorming about Alpha and Beta and noticed that the Rexy and Undead Rexy were similar. Possibly a way to keep the Alpha and Beta is to have alternate card sets with similar stats, but not exactly the same. Thoughts? I mean, we don't just want to recycle the exact same cards into different splinters, right? That's not the plan.
Yeah, that gets difficult to do, with similar stats, not exactly the same, and then people might have both. It also a lot of the point of all this is, it just will become kind of overwhelmingly difficult to actually make your team if you have too many cards to pick from in 2 minutes. Which is the case where Splinterlands is different from other games where you have infinite time to build your decks. So we do need to consider you need to have a reasonable amount of cards to be able to pick from in 2 minutes to make your teams. And I also mentioned Rexy and Undead Rex are pretty different in the sense that they're in different splinters. So even though they may be similar cards, it's very different because they're used with different splinters in the game.
Fitz1567 is asking, turn-based ever? Are we ever going to have a format where it's I play, you play, I play, you play, I think is what he's referencing?
I don't think necessarily for Splinterlands, the existing card game as it is now, just because that would kind of change the entire game completely. I mean, we're already planning the items and spells, which will be another step in the process. Not exactly turn-based, but one thing I think Aggroed and I have talked about a bunch of times in the AMA is in the future we do plan to, or we hope at least, to make other games that use the same NFTs, the same cards, and those may be turn-based games. I mean, most likely, probably will be turn-based games. So that's how I would see that happening. It will be a new game release where you could use all your existing Splinterlands cards, and they might have different stats or abilities within that game.
Too Curious is asking, will Chaos Legion be released the moment Untamed sells out, or will there be time in between?
I would say there's typically time in between, so I would expect that would be the case.
Yeah, I would think that we'd try another crowdfund too. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but that might be something that we do, and things like that take some time to put together. So, we still have 500,000 packs left to go, so that's not what we're doing for Chaos Legion is not the thing that's like right around the corner. So, we'll see where we're at for time and planning when we get a little bit closer.
Yeah, there's a whole lot. I mean, we can't plan exactly when it's going to sell out, so we can't say that to begin with. And there's like all sorts of things that could be happening that could affect that. But I would assume that there would probably be some time in between, as there has been in the past.
Are you guys thinking about looking for alternatives to Uniswap as the main market for DEC? Like the Binance chain? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, there's a bunch of alternatives. Binance is definitely probably the leading one at this point. So it's definitely something we're considering. I mean, on the one hand, even with all the craziness going on in Ethereum right now, there is still significant benefits to being, linked into the Ethereum ecosystem. At the same time, we don't want players to have to deal with the ridiculous fees. So I don't know. And then, do we add Binance in addition to Ethereum? And then it becomes, are we now splitting up the rewards among, even more pools, which people may not like. So it's not, it's something I think about a lot. I don't have like a great answer right now, but for the time being, the DAI pool just launched earlier today. For the time being, we're going to stay on Ethereum. I understand it's really not accessible, unless you have a significant amount of funds to put in, which is unfortunate. But it's going to be a big project to move somewhere else, and we just got to make sure that makes sense and is well thought out, and doesn't screw over the people in the current pools. So there's a lot. The problem with all this stuff is like it's not just like, oh, we just do this and it's done and good. Like there's a whole bunch of things you have to think through. There usually a lot of work involved, design, development, whatever. So nothing's easy, unfortunately. You want to go on to the next one?
I'm trying to find the questions and make sure that the next one I see that's an actual question is from Fat Jimmy. Are you planning to exclude alpha and beta from standard ranked play at the same time, or will alpha be excluded first?
My thought is that alpha and beta would be the same time, because they're in many ways very similar sets, and they were kind of both, time wise. Like I think beta, alpha and beta were both out before the gameplay actually went live. At all, so I kind of lumped those in together. So I was thinking, and also if we only exclude alpha, not beta, it also doesn't really reduce the number of cards that you have to pick from. So my plan for the modern format is when Chaos Legion comes out, it would be Untamed, Chaos Legion, and then any
promo.
Only promo and reward cards that were from that era also, which have the Untamed like background, and dice and probably not orb cards, but we'll have to see. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So Untamed, Chaos Legion, and dice. would be the modern format and newer reward cards or newer promo cards.
Question: where does the motivation come from to keep a project going, even if things aren't going the way you expect?
I'm not sure if that's implying that things aren't going the way we expect. I think, for me at least, things are going way better than I have expected. I'm usually more of a pessimist.
I can confirm that.
Yes, hope for the best and expect the worst. So I've been expecting the worst, and that's not at all what's been happening. So it hasn't really been hard to find the motivation, because we just like love this. I think I can speak for aggroed when I say that also, and are just so super excited for all this stuff that we have planned over the next year or so. So my issue is less having motivation to keep doing it. It's more of like, making sure I don't work too much and like actually spend time with the family and things like that. But it's always possible that there's a time where things aren't going very well. And again, I don't know. We just kind of really love this stuff and really want to build all this stuff. So even if things aren't going well, it's we got to work even harder to turn the ship around. I guess that's what I would say.
I don't know. January was killer. I mean, with it, tons of new players, like new players buying all the time. Just lots of credit sales, packs, dice, all of it. Everything was like fantastic. I couldn't ask for more or for a better January. You see the market cap go up, new players. It's like, so we just keep building stuff. Matt's constantly churning out new product. It's not like you see it every single day, but we're getting closer on guild tournaments, and that's going to be a big drop. We're getting there's some big deals that I'm working on. I'm not going to talk about them, but there are some things that just that we're working really, really hard on, trying to make this stuff appear that we think is going to be great for the game. And I have no lack of motivation for this project, both just because Matt and I have so much at stake here, but also just this is the best. I don't know how I'd ever go back to some corporate job. That just sounds miserable and terrible. I really like the people here. I like this community. I love Matt like a brother. Our team is just filled with really motivated people. This is what we do. So glad to be here. So and in terms of things not going the way they expect, I mean, this is roughly what I expect. Development takes longer than what we think, and players are always demanding more, and the game is always under fierce competition, but still growing and doing good things, and more people are entering crypto. I mean, this is roughly the plan. So I'm pretty good with where we're at. Too Curious is asking. The question was asked about the drop rate for the new dice card. Was that at 1 per 175 packs? Any news on the new card will be revealed, and if that is still going to be the 1 to 175 packs.
I don't know off the top of my head what the drop rate is going to be, but it's just whatever the last one was, and then factoring in that there's another legendary card. So the drop rate is just what the actual drop rate of that card. The chances of getting it in opening a regular pack after it's released. So maybe someone knows that number. I don't know it off the top of my head. Excuse me. When will it be revealed? Soon, as soon as we can. There's as we've been talking about, kind of a million things going on, and that is high on the list to get that revealed ASAP. Since we're getting down to the wire there.
Dave McCoy is asking, are we still on schedule for various projects? Can you give us an update? I guess, we're still expecting tournaments in Q1?
Yeah, Guild Brawl should be in Q1. That's on schedule as far as I know, although it's mostly a Cryptomancer project. Rental Market is coming along really nicely. I think that's going to be kind of an ongoing thing. We'll probably put out an initial version, work with Peak Monsters, work with the community to kind of make adjustments, see what works and what doesn't, and that'll sort of be an ongoing project. But I'm also, I think Q1 for at least the first version of that is definitely good.
Wax.
Q2. Yeah, we haven't really talked about Wax, but we can. Wax is the next. We want to do an integration with Wax similar to what we did with Ethereum. So how you can transfer the cards to Ethereum and trade them on OpenSea. We want to do the same thing with Wax. So the cards, packs, land, all that stuff can be traded on Atomic Hub, and we'll probably, we're going to work on some, probably promotions there to really get that community even more involved. Which that's going to be pretty soon, like this month. And then I guess the big thing is the initial land phase where you'll be able to claim, redeem your claims, that the region tract and plot claim tokens, and get actual land NFTs, see the map, see places on the map, and all that stuff. That's planned for Q2. As far as I know right now, that's still on target. Nate's been doing some great work with the designing of that. We haven't got into building it yet. So obviously, like, the longer out things are, the more potential for unexpected stuff to come up that changes the time frame. But as far as I know right now, that's looking good. I think those are like the big projects, if I'm not missing anything.
Those are the big development projects. I agree with that. Okay. Regarding sit and goes, would it be possible or even desirable to make it so that every entrant has access to the same cards to use? That's like the stock deck tournament.
Yeah, it would definitely be possible. And it's cool. Like everything, it's a matter of how much time that would take to build, and where that fits in the roadmap.
I mean, the players have actually done a surprisingly large number of anytime tournaments that are like the sit and go format. So
yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's in the hundreds already. We didn't release that long ago. So I mean, if people keep playing them and keep if you guys are engaging with it and using it, then I could see building in stuff for it. Honestly, it surpassed my expectations in terms of, like, we put it out. It didn't take very long to modify what we were doing. I'm like, all right, well, we'll see if anybody does this. But Dave, Stealth Trader, Mary Emilia, like those three in particular have really kept like a lot of these things going. So I'm game. Maybe I'll when tournaments are out and maybe the first round of debugging is done, we can look at that, and we can look at where we are with the land piece and see how much time we have. Kyokis is asking, do you have any plans to delist raffle trading on Hive Engine? If not, will raffle tickets have some utility unrelated to the raffle? I could tell the devs to take it off. Matt, do you have thoughts?
No, that's fine. I mean, Hive Engine's more your thing. So, yeah, we don't plan to use raffle tokens ever in the future. I think that would be unfair if we just came out and said, oh, now you can use them for this. Because, people may have got rid of them and all that stuff. So raffle tokens were used for our raffle, and now that's done. So
yeah, that'll be like raffle 1 or raffle 2 or something if we do another raffle like that.
Sure.
Part of this has been addressed beside, but is the land expansion going to be released as a complete idea, or will there be phases? We've been talking about phases. So the first is being able to place it, and then later on to be able to harvest and craft and actually get your items and spells. So yeah, this will be done throughout the year.
Yeah, definitely phases. I mean, we try to do everything in phases for a lot of reasons. I mean, one, it gets at least some stuff out quicker for people to start using, which is good, versus just waiting for everything to be completely finished. And it gives us more opportunity to see how earlier phases go to potentially affect how later phases are designed and worked. So it's just always, as much as possible, we like to release things in phases. I think it just benefits everybody.
How big is each pool right now? And Neil has answered that. He's saying 77,000 DEC in the DAI pool, and there's 300,000 DEC in the Ethereum pool.
That's $77,000 worth of liquidity, not DEC. Just FYI.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, right, because that would be like $77.
Yeah.
The pools are bigger than $77.
Yeah, I mean, Splinterlands, we moved half of like 55,000 of the liquidity uh, in both pools is us. So still in the DEC die pool, we're the majority of the liquidity, and our liquidity is not eligible for the rewards. So that needs to be taken out when factoring in the rewards. So there's only like $22,000 worth of liquidity that's eligible for rewards in the die pool right now. So there's, there can be some pretty good returns for, those of you who want to pay the gas fees to enter there. I also don't know off the top of my head what the fees are. I mean, they kind of are going up and down wildly. So if you kind of pay attention to that, you can maybe jump in at a lower fee. But my guess would probably be you should assume like maybe the $50 range to enter the pool. That's just off the top of my head guess. But also one thing to note is when you do any transaction on Ethereum, you specify the max amount of fees that you will pay. And you're just saying, you say, here's what I'll pay per unit of gas used, and here's the maximum amount of gas I will allow to be used. And the reason for that is if someone makes like some smart contract to try to take advantage of people that just like runs and runs forever and uses up all your gas, you set a max. So you're saying it can't ever go over this price. So when you see the fees in MetaMask or whatever, it's the max, and typically it will actually come out to less than that, and that varies between the different smart contracts and platforms and how they estimate the max fees. But it's just something to keep in mind. If it shows $50 in there, sometimes it might be $30 or $40. I don't know. Still a lot, but just a little bit better at least.
T Curious is asking, the question about the Chaos Legion was more like, will there be a fixed period between the end of Untamed sale and the start of the Chaos Legion?
Go on to.
Oh, sorry. I forget I'm on push to talk.
No problem.
The question about the Chaos Edition was more like, will there be a period between the end of the Untamed sale and the start of the Chaos Legion? Like, for example, 6 months, a year, or will that not be considered at all?
I mean, it's just I can't say right now. Like, I don't know when it's going to sell out. I don't know what's going to be happening. So we're not gonna come out and say now that it's going to be this fixed amount of time. We're gonna look at what happens and decide, what we think is the best way to move forward at that point.
Yeah, too early to call it. There's still 500,000 packs. I mean, those got to move before we start worrying about Chaos Legion. Crypto Eater is asking any ETA on the new rental system. I think Matt just said sometime in February. Is that correct?
Rental system, yeah, I'm saying Q1 for a first version of that. Hopefully that'll be February, but time kind of flies when you're doing these things.
Question, can we get a shout out for the proposed new boost idea? Idea is basically the community playing to get DEC and then gift the new players. So shout out to the proposed new boost idea. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and that seems like something that doesn't necessarily can be built not by us potentially, and we're happy to support any player-led initiatives like that. So, let us know if someone wants to set something like that up and if they need any help.
Question, can we get a Wiki Builders Discord channel? Sure, we can build that in. Question.
Well, I just also Buys had a comment, I guess, but that I'd like to address, that he says he hopes there's a delay between Untamed and Chaos Legion, and that many feel that Untamed came too quickly on the heels of beta. So one, like I said, there will probably be some type of delay. How long, I don't know. But then also keep in mind that, beta was out for a year, maybe even a little less it took for beta to sell out. Whereas here, we're probably going to be going on 2 years, it looks like, roughly. So there's been a lot more time for people to get Untamed than there was beta. So, just something to keep in mind.
Question, can you give a ratio of the active daily spellbooks, humans versus bots?
I I don't know off the top of my head. It's definitely, I would say from the last I looked at these things, there's more active humans, as far as I can tell, than bots that play on a regular basis. But if you just look at like number of players, but if you look at number of battles, then it goes more towards bots, obviously, because they play more battles on average per account than player. But I think it's been getting better. It's been going more toward real players and less toward bots than it was definitely last year. So we're moving in the right direction as far as getting new players. But as I've said before, like bots aren't bad, and they definitely serve some good purposes in the game. We just have to ensure that they can't gain significant benefits over human players.
Question: will we be able to use a new rental system with one shot, or we have to go through and delist all the cards one at a time that are currently for rent?
That's a good question. So right now, as far as listing the cards, there's no way to list cards for rent in Splinterlands. That's a Peak Monsters thing. So that's something we'll have to work with them on how the new system is built and how we transition. My hope overall is that we make it much easier to manage large sets of cards for rental and for everything, because there's obviously a lot of people that want to manage large sets of cards. And it should be pretty easy to build tools that do that, because it's just submitting transactions. And that type of stuff can be automated pretty easily. So that's something we'll work with Peak Monsters on to make it a good transition.
Question: any plans to get DECs on the Alcor exchange, part of the Wax blockchain?
I am not familiar with that exchange, but I will look into it, and we will be able to. I mean, we've been focusing on NFTs mostly because that's where a lot of the volume is on Wax and kind of their focus, and working with Atomic Hub. But we also have we'll have a DEC wrapped token on there, just like we do on Ethereum and Tron. So it should be able to be used on an exchange. We can reach out to them.
Question: will land come to Ethereum OpenSea sales like cards once claiming land as possible? The motivation question was in general and not necessarily about Splinterlands. So I guess will land be on OpenSea?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen a ton of volume in general on OpenSea, but we already have everything built for that. It's just land is just another type of NFT in the cards, so I don't see why it wouldn't be an option if people want to take advantage of it.
Crypto Eater is asking any plans for new DEC syncs or new utility for holding DEC?
Yes, lots. I mean, guild tournaments are going to be the first of many there. I don't know necessarily about holding DEC as far as use as compared to using DEC, which we kind of want that to be more of like the currency for things, which is what it is. And it's it sort of has a capped upside. But yeah, I mean, the whole plan for pretty much every new feature that we're building is that it's going to require DEC to some degree, from guild tournaments to land and potentially a bunch of other things. So yes, there's going to be a lot more uses for DEC.
Yeah, I think that's a focus for us. Whether it's being able to buy stuff with it or burning it. Like our priority is really just finding ways for you guys to use it.
And I mean, the good thing about that is as we add new syncs and new or burns or ways to use DEC, that also allows us to increase rewards. So we talked about having a modern format with a whole additional rank ladder reward pool. Well, we can't just add those things without adding additional reasons for people to use or burn dark energy crystals. Otherwise, it would affect the market prices negatively. So we plan to balance that out. We're going to add new syncs and new uses for DEC in the game, and similarly, then we can also add new rewards and new ways for people to earn.
Biz is asking, what are your thoughts on cutting down the number of channels in this Discord, especially many of the less used ones? What process would you go about deciding which ones to cut? Yeah, sometimes doing cleanup is good. It's been a while since we've done it. We can go through. I would just talk to some of the moderators, probably Biz, and figure out which channels have been dead for a while, and we can nuke them. And you know, if
Maybe
you
we
nuke,
can change the name of SM Voters Hut to something more applicable.
we could do that as well. It could be, you know, I've always liked the channel playing with bots because I think that's funny. But you know, SM bot or something. But yeah, we can.
Or SL.
Yeah, we have progressed from M to L. Question: would you consider a set of summoners that level up when used, so that say you get it to level 3 and now it's time to go buy cards to level the rest? You want to? This gets into the other idea that we've recently been talking about. Is that something you want to bring up now, or are we gonna steer away?
Yeah, not yet. I mean, overall, we're we've heard a lot of player feedback and concern about the new player experience and being able to improve your collection without spending tons of money and things like that. So we're kind of working on an overall plan, incorporating player ideas and our own ideas to try to address that in a way that also works well with our other plans for the game and all that stuff. So my guess is that where this question's coming from, like ways that you can increase your collection or increase its level, without necessarily just buying cards. And so that's a focus of ours. I don't think our plan is specifically to let you level up summoners by playing, but I guess a similar concept.
Question. This is from Crypto Eater. Once the new rental system is out, I would make it a lot easier to bot, since a big issue with botting on large scale is to get sufficient cards. Personally, I'm not against bots at all, but I can foresee a rise in botted accounts, which may ruffle some feathers. Any thoughts about that?
Well, I don't think we're gonna not do the rental system because that might happen. But also if there's a rise in botted accounts and they're all paying for card rentals, that can help push up rental prices, which gives more value to the cards, which is also good for everyone who has cards. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. And also overall, like, I think the rental system is like one of the coolest things about Splinterlands, and one of the most unique things that still I haven't really seen in most other blockchain based projects. And it's been really like, underutilized, and I'm really looking forward to just like bringing that out into the forefront, the ability to rent out cards or to rent cards. I think that's just going to be really big from all different sorts of levels. So if there are any issues that arise out of it, we'll certainly address those, but we're going full force to try to make rentals and the rental market a really big thing, because we just think that's a really, really cool and unique feature of the game.
Sorry, the recording wouldn't have heard that. Stealth Raider is saying, man, you guys are awesome for both showing up and being consistent with these AMAs. Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here. It can be, you guys always have a ton of questions for us, and sometimes they're tricky to answer because we don't always know. But we like to do this. We like to try to communicate to the best of our ability, and I know that like players wouldn't be satisfied unless they were in the office having the discussion with us of what we're doing right that moment. And it's not, that's not entirely possible. So this is the next best thing, and I'm glad that you guys get stuff out of this.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last week a little, but I like the AMAs. I didn't know what to expect at first, but they're really great ways. Not only, I guess, for us to express what we're thinking to all of the players that care to listen, but it's also been really good for us to get feedback and like get suggestions and hear what's on players' minds, because I feel like we get a lot more feedback, or people like bring up more things that they might not just message us privately or whatever on the AMAs. So it's been pleasantly good.
Question: Does development? This is by Unit QM. Does development integration of Splinterlands to Wax, Alcor, OpenSea, etc. take away time and prioritization away from land and guild wars and boss fights? Is there a way to poll the community on features to get feedback on desired features?
So I guess there's two parts there. So for the most part, the integration into external blockchains has been done by a third-party contractor that has been really good and kind of just pretty much does the whole thing, and then we kind of just tie it into the game right at the end, which is where we're at right now with Wax. So it like really doesn't take too much time away from other things, and which is also kind of the only way we'd be able to do it. So it's not one of the core team members doing it. We've hired an external, blockchain developer to do that part for that reason. And then the second thing about polling the community for features, I guess, we were just talking about how the AMAs are also ways to get sort of input from the players on what they would like to see. We've also kind of been talking, aggroed and I, about ways to do more formal, I don't know if polling specifically, but like a more formal way for players to kind of come together and express what they would like to see for all different parts of the game, not just for what we work on and what we develop, but things like tournaments or even potentially card stat adjustments or all sorts of various things, and kind of having that be a more formal process. Because also, the people in these AMAs might have certain opinions, but there's also a large portion of the community that doesn't come to the AMAs, and we don't want them to miss out, and we want to hear their opinions as well. So that's something that's also been on the radar, also after our current priorities right now.
Yep, I agree with that. Just we're working through what we have now and can think through what we're going to add later. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we take a lot of player feedback into what we're building and how we're building it. We might not satisfy everybody. Arguably, it's impossible to satisfy everybody, but we try to get to a point that we feel like we have maximized the number of opinions that are best for the players, new players, players aren't here yet, old players, the game itself, and just helping to decentralize and grow blockchain. All right, Monkish Penguin is asking, question, what happens to the current rentals once the new rental system is implemented?
I mean, nothing will happen to them because all the rentals are, as far as Splinterlands is concerned, are just cards delegated to another account, and nothing's going to change. If you have cards delegated to another account, they'll remain. Peak Monsters is the one who implemented the system around that, and so we'll have to work with them to figure out how they transition cards that are like on the market for rent to the new system. But if you have a card rented out already, it should just stay delegated, and that should keep on going. And then the next time you want to rent it out, it would use the new system.
We're running out of time. We got 6 minutes left, so I see Crypto Eater's question at the bottom. I think that'll be the last question we get to. So Flavia here is asking, will farm and mythical tokens be used to buy credits for Splinterlands? Maybe eventually. I would love to see that happen, but I think that we generally have rules for Splinterlands of just like you have to have a certain amount of market volume before we would consider a token. And just because Hive Engine did it didn't mean that it's necessarily going to be implemented. We recently just did Leo, so I think if Farm and Mythical can get up to a point where they're trading like Leo does, then maybe that's an option. But until then, they're still sort of totally separate from Splinterlands, and I don't see that happening in like the very near future. But over time, I hope that it does.
Yeah, it all comes down to volume, and even 1/10 of the volume, that Leo's doing would probably be sufficient.
All right, Crypto Eater suggestion: revamp the markets pages for alpha and gold mines. Seem irrelevant. There should just be want to buy, want to sell, want to trade, and feedback. I guess that's a suggestion. Yeah, Biz, I don't know if you want to go take. You're asking a bunch of Discord questions, so maybe you can take point on some suggestions, and then we can kind of clean up Discord as players want. It's probably been a year since we've done a major cleanup, so this is about time. McVeer question: new players that have not invested in Hive can look like bots if they try to play tournaments and run out of RC. Is there any way to fix this? Matt, you want to tell them about automated delegation?
Yeah, I mean, it should automatically delegate to players if they run out of resource credits while playing, through the Splinterlands website or mobile site or app. So, no one really should be running out of RC, and they shouldn't have to buy Hive themselves. If it is the case where someone's running out of RC, let me know, and that sounds like an issue there. But yeah, as long as they're not, we haven't flagged them as bots. We will delegate resource credits to them to keep playing automatically behind the scenes. You don't even know what's happening.
Byzantinus is asking for Discord. Is there a better policy for how often people should post in the market channels? I would say daily. There have been a lot of complaints lately about the same people constantly reposting the same thing every day, and so it becomes an arms race with people constantly reposting that so that their marketplace offers the most recent, most visible. I would say daily, but that's part of a Discord cleanup, so let's make that like a separate offline discussion. Crypto
Or maybe someone could just make a website or something where people could just post their things. Maybe
sure.
Peak Monsters or something. I don't know. It seems better than a Discord chat for that. But
Crypto Eater is asking, will the new rental system be implemented straight into the core website, or is it still only on Peak Monsters? Will this be implemented on the mobile app? I feel like this would be great for a microtransaction kind of thing on mobile.
Yeah, integrated into the main website and on the mobile sites. Mobile might be a little bit later, as usual, but yes, that is the plan. And the idea is that Peak Monsters is already planning to offer additional features that our website won't offer. So our plan is on the website, you'll be able to just like the normal market view, you'll be able to flip it to a rentals view, see all the cards available for rent and the details, and rent the cards that you want. I think Peak Monsters is planning to do a more like whole managed system where if you want to, rent out, it'll kind of like manage your rentals for you. So if you rent out cards, it'll automatically like detect if there are new cards coming up for rent that are cheaper, and if your rental is coming up, it'll just kind of manage all that for you and switch it around to cheaper cards. And we're also working on reducing or eliminating cooldowns in those scenarios where you're like switching from one rental card to another. So that won't be an issue, and Peak Monsters will be able to do that and always get you the lowest price that's available. And then also we're working on making sure that if you submit a card to like an anytime tournament battle, that if even if the card gets undelegated before your team is revealed and the battle is played, or whatever happens to the card, you could transfer it or burn it. The point is, when the battle's revealed, it's going to check the cards that you had at the time you submitted your team, to make sure that you had the cards at that time, not when the battle's revealed. So that should take care of that issue. So really looking forward to what Jarvie has planned for like kind of managing people's rentals, which we don't plan to offer on the core Splinterlands game website, but we do plan to promote the Peak Monsters version of it. So we'll have our rental page and you can come in and do your rentals through splinterlands.com, but we're also gonna have some type of advertisement kind of that'll say, hey, if you want more like managed rentals and more features, check out Peak Monsters. And that offer also goes to other markets. If other markets implement additional features and value to players, we can also promote that there as well. Like we don't want to we love Peak Monsters and want to support them, but we're not like we're not excluding anyone else from that opportunity.
Surya One Adiga is asking when info on new dice card. You just said soon, right? That's like
earlier I said soon. I mean, it's got to be like early next week, really, because we're getting down low on dice.
Fat Jimmy's asking question: do you have a specific currency in mind for the new rental setup? Multiple options?
Well, the plan is dark energy crystals, and then you can also use credits just like the current market.
Too Curious is asking, is pushing Discord to newbies already implemented?
It is not already implemented, but there is a task that I had made last week for it.
Stealth Trader is asking, new player boost could be set up with Splinterlands DAO and even other projects like free rolls for non-spellbook holders. I guess that's not a question, but as it turns out, Hive Engine is working on a DAO and making it so that all these different tokens can have their own inflation pools and a system like a DAO. Maybe that's something that we do for some Splinterlands DEC so that the players can have some control. But I don't know. We'll see what that looks like. But that probably ties into other stuff that we talked about, like how tournaments get set up and other big questions. Crypto Eater is asking question, can you buy credits on the mobile app? If so, is there an additional fee that Apple Google takes for using their marketplace? Is that fee covered by the buyer of Splinterlands? Small extra note, since this is the last question, if Splinterlands covers a fee, maybe change that to let players cover the fee for lower purchase, and Splinterlands will cover a larger portion of the fee as the credit purchase increases to incentivize larger credit purchases.
You can buy credits on the mobile app, and Apple or Google does take a fee out of the purchase amount. I mean, so does PayPal, but Apple and Google take much more. For the moment, that's covered by Splinterlands, and the volume is pretty small, and that's something we're kind of going to keep an eye on and, just adjust as necessary. If we start to get very large volumes of purchases on mobile, well, that's a good problem to have, and we'll kind of deal with it at that point. But I actually have to jump because I have another call right now regarding the Wax integration. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who participated and asked all the questions, and for all your support and everything. And we're gonna have an awesome year.
One more quick one. What time do you want to do next week's AMA?
I'm free whenever, so figure it out and let me know.
All right. I'm going to move the regular time back to 2 p.m. instead of 3 p.m. So
okay.
Let's do 2 to 3 p.m. next week.
Sounds good. All right. Later, guys.
So I see a question from Biz. Is there a way to display more useful information about recent card sales, like the biggest card sales in the past 24 hours, or to be able to filter by all the card sales? So that might be a thing for the other websites to handle. That's not going to be one of our next priorities. It's a good idea. We just covered when the next AMA is. Created Splinterlands claim to try to convert Clash players to Splinterlands. Apparently, some parents won't let their kids access Discord. Yeah, 2 p.m. It's always Eastern. When I talk about time, it's always Eastern. So roughly 7 days from now, minus 2 hours. Anyways, as you heard from Matt, it's great that you guys are here. I love doing these things. I think that they're super powerful. We have some marketing stuff. We have a lot of development stuff. This is a crazy year already. We are going to be hiring. Or it looks like we're going to be hiring. I don't know. There's a lot going on. It's a lot to be thankful for. We're seeing an increase in the player base. We're seeing an increase in the number of registered users. We're seeing more purchases by more new users. I mean, literally every single metric I could ask for is going up, and it's healthy and just in a great position to start this year. So I'm stoked. I have no other word for it. This thing is awesome. And of course, it's not possible without a fantastic community like you guys coming in, listening, giving us a hard time, holding our feet to the fire, making sure that we're getting stuff out there. And I think the next real big thing that you guys will see is going to be the guild tournaments or the guild brawls. We're not too far away from that. Like Matt said, we started testing. That should be a nice sync for DEC. A nice new token that you can earn as a guild called Crowns. And I don't know. There's just a ton. So anyways, you guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting the game. And we'll see you guys pretty soon. And next week, it'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks, everybody.